wired in a given way. They have a certain personality. And because we're not conscious of the self, we might think that we can change, or we will change, or we have changed. And in fact, it's not the case. Or a woman who has an anxious personality, a suspicious personality, thinks, she truly believes that if you just tell her this one thing. You ever heard a woman get at you like this? Just let me see, just let me read your text message. Just let me see this one thing. Just tell me this one thing. I'll never ask again. But those men who are experienced know that she will ask again. It will not satiate her, because that was not an instance. That was not an aberration. That was a representation of the core of her personality. Research shows reassurance tends to work only temporarily, because that's her personality. The anxiety quickly returns. Over time, this creates a cycle. And here's how the cycle goes, gentlemen. Anxiety, checking, temporary relief, more anxiety, more checking. Straight back through. Yes? Anxiety, her personality tells her, you should be worried, you should be worried, something's going wrong. Then she checks, doesn't find anything. Feels better. But it's only temporary. Then her personality kicks back in, and you go back through the cycle. I want you all to know that many of the behaviors we observe in women, if we observe them in men, we would surely believe that the man was mentally ill and probably something would be done about it. With women, we just accept it as status quo. There's one young lady who has called me in a 24-hour period over 1,000 times. And I wish I was exaggerating. I thought she was using a robocaller because she was calling so fast, like so consistent. I thought she was using a robocaller, but sure enough, she wasn't. Doing different phone numbers and all the rest of it. And the comedy is that the reason she was calling so much is because I blocked her and hung up on her. I hung up on her and then blocked her. And the reason that I did that is because I said, hey, my request of you is this. And instead of doing what I requested, she started delaying and BSing. But that was a pattern that I observed. And I'd asked her, I said, hey, you should see a therapist. And mind you, I don't even believe in counseling. And I don't believe that counseling fixes or heals for overwhelming majority of people. But I do believe that it can at least make you aware of what your wiring is. Yes. And in being aware of your wiring, you're not going to fail to execute on what you're wired for, but you can at least understand how people around you react. You can understand why they react in certain ways because you're running a pattern. And, of course, people get tired of negative patterns, unproductive patterns. So I observed this pattern again. She had refused to find someone professional to talk to. And so I blocked her on everything. And she just kept harassing me, just calling and calling and calling, to the point where I just had to turn off my cellular phone. I couldn't even use the phone. It was just, it was useless. And I say all that to say this. These behaviors I'm describing are essentially deficiencies in a person's personality, which is just a matter of category. You could categorize it as mental illness. You could categorize it as someone being defective. But certainly we could simply say that it leads to negative outcomes on a consistent basis. And that cycle that I just described to you is it's a cycle, meaning it repeats, and it's on an infinite loop until the person dies. And the reason that I really have to emphasize so strongly that people don't change, that's why it's a cycle, because the person's not changing. If they were changing, learning, and improving, it wouldn't be a cycle. You wouldn't even be able to detect it. They'd improve, and then, because human beings, remember, we capture patterns. It has to occur multiple times for us to even really be able to assess it or put a finger on it. So what you think you're seeing, you are seeing. Monitoring does not restore trust. It verifies that trust is absent and likely won't return. So if you're looking through her stuff or she's looking through your stuff, the trust is gone. It's not that you're trying to get more trust. It's that you don't trust them. And mostly the trust will not return. The comedy is that suspicion changes how people interpret evidence. Yes. So what I'm describing is what cognitive psychology calls confirmation bias. You're going to find what you're looking for, even if it's not there. Yes. You all have probably dealt with women who look for problems. You ever been with a woman who looks for a problem? You ever been with a woman who's flighty, meaning that she's always trying to break up, but then always comes back? She starts the breakup, but then also comes back. She's active on both sides. And that's because the female personality at a significant level seeks variation. They need to have their emotions stimulated for good or for ill. And when you're not one of those ghetto or effeminate males, so on the black side, it's like a Pookie, completely emotionally unhinged and effeminate, or on the white side, ultra liberal and emotional, behaves just like the woman. If you're not one of those personalities, you're not feeding enough stimuli into her, don't worry. She'll do it herself. She'll create problem where there is no problem. When someone believes, quote, my man is hiding something, they begin to treat neutral events as suspicious. For example, you reply late to a text message. She doesn't think, oh, he's a multimillionaire. He's busy. She thinks, who's he with? What's he doing? Which is not the most reasonable, not the obvious answer, but it is the one that the suspicious mind comes up with first. You misinterpret things. And here's a really important one. Women often confuse transparency with trust. Yes? They'll hit you with this kind of phraseology. Even the government uses this. If you have nothing to hide, let me see your phone. Or if you have nothing to hide, why is it a problem, right? Why is it a problem that I go through your phone? Why is it a problem that I go through the drawers in your office desk or the drawers in your dresser if you have nothing to hide? But trust works differently than that. Trust means accepting uncertainty. Yes. Trust means a long-term relationship can dispense with constantly looking through all of these things. It's impossible to remove uncertainty. You cannot know all things. And it's the mind that is sick that tries to know all things. That is the God complex that you'll find in most women when they want to search your phone. They want you to share your location. They want to know when you're going home, why you left, who's there, which friends are you hanging out with, are there any women there? That mind is a sick mind. Shout out to Sass in Chicago supporting the work, came in by Venmo. Appreciate you. Writes peace to the saints, tuition. Yeah, that is a sick mind, ladies and saints. A healthy relationship has privacy, mostly on the man's side, autonomy, mostly on the man's side. And remember, these are the things that they're trying to take away from you. They're trying to take away your privacy, take away your autonomy. You have personal personal friendships. That's on both sides. You both should have significant friendships. Yes. In the case of the woman, the friendship should be with other women. You both have individual thoughts. You're not going to agree on everything. There may be things that you totally disagree on, and that's okay. You can still have a perfectly fine romance. And you should have independent activities. Some couples try to do everything together, and this is usually an indication that the male is effeminate. Yes. These are the guys who work out with the girlfriend. They go bake cupcakes with the girlfriend. They do everything. Trust allows the foregoing things to exist without constant surveillance. Healthy relationships maintain individual hobbies, private thoughts, separate friendships, familial relationships, and alone time. Now, privacy is not a bad thing. Privacy means I have parts of my life that are mine, my own. And a woman may have parts of her life that are her own. The challenge is when a woman is using secrecy. That's dangerous. What that means is, quote, she is deliberately hiding information that the man needs to know. Now, that's an issue. So a healthy relationship preserves privacy and discourages harmful secrecy. Let me give you a few takeaways from this talk. And thank you to the handful of folks who have supported it. I appreciate you. High levels of surveillance are associated with lower levels of trust and lower relationship satisfaction. Nobody's happy. The person searching is not happy, and the person being searched is not happy. Confirmation bias can make ordinary events or evidence appear suspicious or negative. More checking rarely produces lasting reassurance. So, gentlemen, if she says, let me just see this one thing, your answer should be no, never. And the next time you ask, we'll have to have a more serious conversation. Digital technologies amplify jealousy and surveillance behaviors. You'd probably have a woman who's a better woman if she was completely and utterly off social media. Trust requires tolerating some uncertainty. Healthy relationships distinguish between privacy and harmful secrecy, particularly on the woman's side. Secure relationships have open communication, voluntary disclosure, rather than continual investigation. She should tell you everything that you need to know. You shouldn't have to interrogate her. It is her low character that would have her hide things. And in your case, you should be open with things that are appropriate to share.